Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're embarking on an epic journey back in time, not just across continents, but through the very arteries of the ancient world's economy. We're talking about the legendary Silk Road, a name that conjures images of endless deserts, bustling caravans, and priceless treasures. But the Silk Road was so much more than a simple trade route. It was a revolutionary network that fundamentally reshaped civilizations, sparked economic booms, and connected humanity in ways that were previously unimaginable. Forget just silk and spices for a moment. Think of this as the world's first global superhighway, a sprawling web of paths stretching over 4,000 miles, connecting the mighty Roman Empire in the west with the magnificent Han Dynasty in the east. For centuries, this network was the beating heart of international commerce. So, what exactly was being traded? Of course, the star of the show was Chinese silk. To the Romans, this shimmering, lightweight fabric was pure magic. It was softer, stronger, and more brilliant than anything they had ever seen. Roman elites were so obsessed with it that, at times, the Roman Senate tried to ban it, fearing it was draining the empire's coffers and was too decadent. But the demand was unstoppable. This silk fever caused a massive outflow of gold and silver from Rome to the east, creating one of the first major trade imbalances in history. But the traffic wasn't a one-way street. From the west came gold, silver, precious gems, glassware that was highly prized in the East Wall, and linen textiles. India contributed exotic spices like pepper, which was worth its weight in gold, as well as cotton, pearls, and ivory. Central Asia offered magnificent horses coveted by the Chinese for their military, along with jade, furs, and ceramics. This incredible exchange did something profound. It created entire economies built around trade. Cities along the Silk Road, like Samarkand, Bukhara, and Kashgar, exploded from dusty outposts into glittering cosmopolitan centers of wealth and culture. These oasis cities became the service stations of the ancient world. They offered merchants everything they needed: safe lodging, fresh water, food for their camels, and bustling marketplaces. Local artisans thrived, creating goods to sell to passing caravans. Bankers and moneylenders developed sophisticated systems of credit and exchange, allowing a merchant to deposit money in one city and withdraw it in another thousands of miles away. This was the birth of international finance, long before we had stock markets or digital banking. The economic impact was staggering. Entire regions specialized in producing specific goods for this international market. China ramped up its silk production, turning it into a state-controlled industry. Persia, now modern-day Iran, became the master middleman, controlling the flow of goods between East and West, and growing fabulously wealthy in the process. But the most revolutionary economic impact of the Silk Road wasn't just the goods themselves. It was the ideas and technologies that traveled with them. Papermaking, a Chinese invention. traveled west along the Silk Road. Its arrival in the Islamic world and eventually Europe revolutionized communication, record keeping, and the spread of knowledge. Imagine a world without affordable paper. It would be a very different place. The compass, gunpowder, and printing techniques also made their way westward, each one a seed that would eventually grow to transform Western society. In the other direction, agricultural innovations spread. Grapes and alfalfa traveled east to China, diversifying their crops and agriculture. This wasn't just trade, it was a technological and agricultural transfer on a global scale. It allowed different civilizations to learn from each other's breakthroughs, accelerating progress for everyone involved. This constant movement of people also created a demand for new jobs and skills. You didn't just have merchants, you had translators who were essential for negotiating deals. You had caravan leaders who knew the treacherous routes like the back of their hand. You had guards to protect the precious cargo from bandits. There were animal handlers, guides, and innkeepers. The Silk Road created an entire service economy that supported the main trade. It also spurred advancements in transportation. The development of the sturdy two-humped Bactrian camel, which could carry heavy loads for long distances with little water, was a game-changer for desert travel. Ship designs also improved to handle the maritime legs of the Silk Road, which connected the land routes to seaports in the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean. However, it's crucial to remember that this economic engine wasn't always smooth. The routes were dangerous, subject to harsh weather, bandits, and shifting political landscapes. When one empire fell or a region descended into conflict, trade could be disrupted for decades. The rise and fall of great powers like the Han, the Kushan, the Parthian, and later the Mongol Empire directly impacted the prosperity of the Silk Road. The Mongols, for instance, created the largest land empire in history in the 13th and 14th centuries. Under their rule, often called the Pax Mongolica or Mongol Peace, the Silk Road experienced its golden age. They policed the routes, making them safer than ever before, and established a postal system that further encouraged communication and trade. Marco Polo's famous journey happened during this very period. But just as the Silk Road connected economies, it also connected diseases. This interconnectedness had a dark side. Historians believe that the bubonic plague, the infamous Black Death that devastated Europe in the 14th century, traveled from Asia along these very trade routes. It's a stark reminder that globalization, even in its ancient form, has both benefits and risks. The economic disruption caused by the plague was immense, but it also, in a strange way, led to social and economic changes in Europe by creating labor shortages and shifting power dynamics. By the 15th century, the golden age of the Silk Road began to wane. The fall of the Mongol Empire led to political instability. More importantly, European powers like Portugal and Spain began to pioneer new maritime routes around Africa and across the Atlantic. Sea travel became faster, safer, and capable of carrying much larger volumes of goods than any camel caravan could. The old land routes, while never completely abandoned, lost their central role in the global economy. The great oasis cities began to decline, and the world's economic focus shifted from the deserts of Central Asia to the oceans of the world. But the legacy of the Silk Road's economic revolution endures. It taught the world the power of international trade. It demonstrated how the exchange of goods could lead to an exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultures, enriching everyone involved. It created the first truly globalized economy and laid the groundwork for the interconnected world we live in today. Every time you buy a product made in another country, you are following in the footsteps of those ancient merchants. The Silk Road wasn't just a path for silk, it was the path that connected our world and created the blueprint for the modern global economy. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through history. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Let me know in the comments what part of the Silk Road's history fascinates you the most. Until next time, stay curious.